Hello, hello. Thanks so much for tuning in. So today I thought I will talk about events, specifically podcasting events, and what to look out for in 2019. So I've just completed, I would like to think, quite a comprehensive list of events spread across the world. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you on that and also ask you if there are any events that I haven't listed or haven't found in my search. Let me know. I would love to keep that list up to date and see where podcasters could meet. So obviously, when looking at the list, US is definitely leading the way by mile when it comes to the number of events available, which is fantastic. On my list, I've included typical podcasting events, as well as those that are kind of edging out a little bit into different areas, which I will preface, I highly encourage. I think it's actually great for 2019 to be the event where podcasters start spreading the net a little bit wider than the usual comfort zone. So anyway, let me get back to the point. The events that I have on a calendar here would be, well, there is a Podfest Multimedia Expo in March in Orlando. Looks like a kind of larger scale event, kind of similar to Podcast Movement, but in March. And also, a lot of podcasters, a lot of speaking tracks, a lot of companies, podcasting companies. So definitely a good place to be if you are podcasting, thinking of starting a podcast and want to kind of mingle in that crowd. The next one on my list, also in March in New York City, is Rain Podcast Business Summit. So this one is slightly different, and I think it's important to highlight the fact that they are very much radio background, so it's going to be slightly different crowd. It's not the same kind of podcasting crowd you would expect to see, say, at the Multimedia Expo. This is going to be more radio people, perhaps getting into podcasting or podcasting already, larger podcast networks, etc. So again, just a different crowd, and I think it's good to spread your net wide. Next one on the list for me, even though it isn't specifically podcast related, it's Social Media Marketing World. Fantastic event. I've been there last year for the first time and thoroughly enjoyed it. It's in March, it's in San Diego. Busy March for podcasters. And I really like it because a lot of prominent podcasters are at the event. So even though there are no tracks specific to podcasting, which I think is a huge shame, I know that Mike Stelzner, who's the organizer, has made a huge decision to really focus on social media because that's obviously the main thing. But I still think it's a very relevant event for podcasters to be at. Why? Because you will learn a lot of things about marketing, social media, content marketing, creation, and all sorts of other things. There is a lot of video tracks, which I think is also highly relevant because podcasting is not just sitting in front of the microphone and recording your podcast. There is much more to it, and we need to know that other part to it in order to really make a podcast success. So highly putting this one on the agenda. I'm really looking forward to being there. So if you are attending or thinking of attending, let me know. I would definitely want to connect with you. Next one on the list is Podcast Movement. It's August in Orlando. Now, I think it will be in the 5th year. I'm trying to think 5th, maybe 6th year now. So event has grown now to attend thousands of attendees. Again, big companies present there, a lot of speaking tracks, a lot of podcasters from a variety of different niches. Great event if you want to connect with people and just meet other podcasters. There is also Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference in September in Atlantic City. So it started as a Facebook group in 2014, and I think slowly the event has over the years evolved into a mini conference. I think it's more a boutique style event, not as big as Podcast Movement or the Social Media Marketing World or the Multimedia Expo. But I think it's just kind of a little bit more intimate, focused on networking with people, etc. There is also the 2019 Third Coast Conference. This one is in 31st of October to 2nd of November in Chicago. the dates have just been announced, but there are no further details there just yet. This is the first time I've heard of the event, so I don't really have much of a personal experience of this one. But I guess from the website, I've gathered that they are trying to really bring the community of podcasters together and kind of, educate, let people connect and all of that. So so kind of, another interesting event to look out for. So that's that in the US on my list. The next one up, believe it or not, leading the way in terms of the number of events available is actually surprisingly Australia. I say surprisingly because I know that Australia is not just yet kind of a huge podcasting scene, but I really hope 2019 is going to make it so. A lot of prominent figures in podcasting are kind of hinting that 2019 could be the year of podcasting. So if you are not doing it just yet, it may be time to get onto it. And certainly seeing the number of events in Australia is highly encouraging because I think it just indicates that the growth in other English-speaking countries quite significantly, and fingers crossed it will continue to be so. So there is a series of events in there called Adelaide Podcast Festival. They organise multiple throughout the year. So they have a Twitter where they announce them. It's kind of smaller, boutique in style, but podcasters meet and chat, and they usually have a guest speaker. So it's less than a conference, it's more of an event as such. There is also Ozpod. There was one in 2018, and the dates are not announced yet for the 2019. The last one was in October 2018, and they already have the details on their website to say they are back in 2019, and kind of details to follow soon. I think it's this one is likely going to be the largest one of all of those in Australia, by the looks of it on their website, which, by the way, I will link into the full show notes in this video, and you will be able to also find it under mrc.fm/podcasting events. So if you go to mrc.fm/podcasting events, then you will be able to find all of those that I'm listing here now. Another one is in June in Sydney, Audiocraft. They call it a podcasting festival, so I'm guessing a little bit less formal and structured than a conference would be. According again to organizer, it's the theme of 2019 is the year of collaboration and making meaningful connections, which I think is quite nice, and I think it's very much needed, especially in a market like Australia, where I'm guessing it's quite closed, as in, you can't transfer things from Australia outside somewhere else, maybe New Zealand. I might be wrong here, by the way. And the last one on my list is We Are Podcast. The dates have been announced, 7th to 9th of November in Brisbane. There are no details yet of who's going to be the speaker. I mean, in the past, so this is interesting one because they are focusing on business owners who are utilizing podcasting as a content marketing strategy. So slightly different if you are a hobbyist podcaster. Then that might not be necessarily be for you. They have attracted really great speakers in the past. There was Pat Flynn, Jordan Herbinger, Dave Jackson, and many other kind of known figures in the podcasting world. So worth to look, kind of keep an eye on that one, so to speak. So those are the Australian events. And lastly, in Canada, there is a pod summit, which is in June 2019 in Calgary. Again, details to follow soon. I know Mike has been a speaker at this event in 2018 and came back with nothing but just amazing feedback, saying that it's a fantastic, well-organized event. It's likely smaller in size, probably 100 to 150 people. But it's just well organized, well thought through, and full of good content for people. So now you may ask, what about UK? Well, there is nothing in the UK that has been announced at the time of recording and writing this. Which is a huge shame, and I hope this is going to change. I know UK is a very difficult market for podcasting, and we've experienced that. We've organised the UK Podcasters events back in 2014, and then 2015 and 16 was the New Media Europe. where podcasting has been heavily featured. We've organized a number of podcast awards, etc. And it is a really, really hard market to be. In fact, it's very surprising. It surprises me that there is enough going on in Australia for events to coexist together, where there is not one in the UK. I know that there has been, it happened already, I think. There was an event here, which was Pod UK, but that was aimed at podcasting fans, not podcasters as such. So slightly different kind of angle altogether. Hence, I didn't list it in there because I didn't feel that event for podcasting fans is necessarily going to really cut the criteria for what I had in mind for this particular research. So anyway, let's see what the year is going to bring. I do hope that more events will pop up in the UK and Europe in general, as there are many podcasters here, and I think it would be wonderful to see them all coming together once again. So that's my list that I have compiled together once again. It will be available at mrc.fm/podcasting events. You can check it out over there. I am also, if there is an event that I haven't listed here and you are going to be attending, let me know. I would like to make sure that we keep the list up to date. But thanks so much for tuning in.